Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Kool-Aid, what is going on, everybody? We are back, and we're just not back, but Grifka is back. Grifka, what's going on, buddy? Back on the show.
Hey, man, it's good to be back, even with this frigid weather, man. It's good to be back.
Definitely. I got to kick you out sometimes so that people get a break from you, but it's good to have you back, and we're excited to be back here on the Detroit Kool-Aid cast. So normally we're jumping into news and notes. We got a couple things to talk about before it's going to be a fun one, Griffith. It's going to be a good podcast. We're talking about that Lions-Patriots game. I know we had to suffer through the Jets and the San Francisco rewind, but here we are with this Patriots game, so we should have some fun to talk about it today. Great win by the Lions.
Yeah.
So first thing on my news and notes is I got Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl just happened this past weekend. Kool-Aid drinkers, I know you're going to kill me. I know I kind of promised you a Senior Bowl podcast last weekend. I mean, life got in the way, got busy, and it was so soon after the Senior Bowl, I didn't get really a chance to watch it the way I wanted and digest it. So I need to go back and not only dive into it a little bit deeper, but I'm going to definitely bring you that show where I kind of just focus on what I saw from the practices and the game, as well as some draft talk. So the hope is to get that out this weekend. I promise you that's going to be my goal, and should be some good podcast listening there. So, Grifka, did you watch the Senior Bowl? Do you have any brief thoughts on it?
I watched a little of it. It's one of those things where so many names. I mean, I do watch a lot of college football, but that game has a lot of players in I don't recognize, to be honest with you. It's kind of like it's really basic offenses and stuff like that. So, like you said, if you're watching it maybe for like one or two guys. A couple guys I really want to watch, other than Karan Higdon, because he went to Michigan. I'm a big Michigan fan. See if that could translate somewhere into the pros. I know he wouldn't really be for the Lions, but watching it because he went to Michigan. And one guy I'm kind of interested in, based on this, we can talk about this in a little draft time. Was that Montez Sweat, the guy who started out at Michigan State, ended up transferring to Mississippi State. Might be one of those guys that if the Lions trade out of the 8th pick, somewhere like maybe the middle of the 1st. He'd be a guy I'd be interested in, so I want to watch him because that's been some of the chatter that Lions thinking about trading down, just don't know where. But that would be I think he's maybe a little too high for the 8th pick. I don't know if he's that good, so I really want to watch him because what we always talk about, Lions needed a pass rusher. He could fit that bill if it was a little farther down in the first round. It seemed like he had a decent game. Like I said, you split time with a lot of guys at those things, but reading about him during the week, and it seemed like he had some good practices. But that's the kind of the few guys I was watching for. But like I said, they're not in there all that often because they're trying to get so many guys in the game, so you really can't have a hard time focusing just on one or two guys.
Yeah, man, good stuff. I get about 15 to 20 some names I want to talk about on the podcast when I do it, just of people that I had on my radar that I either liked or disliked, and then also some new names that popped up on me. I mean, just real quick here on the opening, like I thought, this Andy Isabella got a lot of talk about his crazy production at UMass. Little receiver, definitely has that Wes Welker type of feel. I really liked and was blown away by them talking about this guy's speed, being such a speedy guy. But when I watched him in the game, I mean, he seemed to have some speed and some shiftiness, but he definitely had some drops and things when I watched it. But to me, he's a guy that should be on like your late second, third type radar. Third round type radar is like a guy that could definitely be that underneath shifty receiver that the Lions really need in their offense. So, I liked him. Another guy I didn't know much about, but I'd seen he's decently highly rated, but I really liked what I saw at the Senior Bowl was Rock Ya-Sin Grifka from Temple. I mean, this guy at corner was D'ing up with Debo Samuel all week long, and I mean, this guy competes. He was always after the football. To me, this is a guy that maybe you can get in that second, maybe even in the third round there as a corner if you don't take the corner up top. So I liked what I saw from him. And like you say, these tight ends, I'm just trying to work my way through these tight ends as far as I think it's Caleb Wilson, I want to say, out of UCLA. He really had some crazy college production and has the size and the measurables, so I'm intrigued by him because you could probably get him much later, and me and you have always talked about getting a tight end later as a better option than taking one high, but I do think they need to kind of look at that position. So I thought those were some main spots. I mean, again, the pass rushers, I mean, you brought up Montez Sweat. He's getting a lot of love and a lot of, he's been in some mock drafts to the Lions. I mean, he did show out well at the Senior Bowl, but he didn't do anything that made me want to take him at 8 or in the mid-first round. But, I mean, I don't doubt his talent, but I know he's had some off-the-field issues and things as well. So I'm kind of leaning against him at this point, but we'll kind of see how it shakes out in the draft process. Like I say, I got a bunch of other names here, but without running them all down here on the show, I'll do that on the separate show that I do. And like you say, we'll be talking much more about it as we get into draft season. But I thought it was great. I mean, I love the Senior Bowl practices. I love seeing all the stuff that came out about it. It's just getting those draft juices flowing before we get to the combine. I thought it was good stuff. So much more to come on that for you Kool-Aid drinkers. I'm going to break it all down. So next item I had, Grifka, was the Lions actually signed a new quarterbacks coach. Your boy George Godsey, who I'm sure you wanted as the offensive coordinator, is headed to Miami with that Patriot group and coaches that are heading down there with the new Pats defensive coordinator that'll be the head coach in Miami. New quarterbacks coach, I think it's Stafford's third coach in 4 years, Sean Ryan, coming from Houston. You know anything about this guy, Grifka, or you got any takes on this?
I don't know a whole lot about him. I was kind of surprised that he was the guy. It's not a name. I thought that when it was first going down, that even though they hired Bevel as the offense coordinator, that Godsey would stay and still be the quarterbacks coach. But then, like you said, then he left, and they picked up Ryan really quick. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to read and check up on this guy to really get his background. So, I guess I'm indifferent to the signing right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think you got to look into it a little bit more. I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal either way. It's not like, the quarterback coach makes the quarterback or has, his hands all over the offense. But, I mean, Matt Stafford has to be better. So it probably all comes down to, not only what this guy's track record is, but how is he going to get along with number 9? Is he going to drive him? Are they going to be buddies? Is he going to be in the middle? They need to work together well, but I think we've talked before about how you need to get after this guy. He's got to be better and no excuses, type of thing. So I saw a picture of him, and just knowing that he was in Houston with Deshaun Watson, and before that when they had just terrible quarterback play, it doesn't jump off the page to me. But again, if he works well with Matt Pat and is on board with everything he's trying to do, then, again, I support it. But real quick, you brought up the offensive coordinator. There's definitely been some Detroit Kool-Aid flowing with that. I know me and you supported it from the get-go, but the more I hear about it, people are just starting to really get in love with Darrell Bevell. He's great in the run game, and he was touted by these other teams. Now there's reports coming out. There was 2 or 3 other teams that he was getting considered by, and he really was great with the offensive line. That's why he blew him away in the interview of how he was going to block things up and work the run game and the play action game. So I don't know if you've been hearing that, but I've really been hearing lots of people that were either on the fence or negative are now saying, hey, this might be a great hire, especially because he's not one of these 20-somethings that's getting their first shot as offensive coordinator. Like this guy's played for 12 years. He's won at the highest level, and he's been pretty consistent. It's not like he was a terrible coordinator and then really good and then terrible and then really good. He kind of like was pretty good throughout his career and has had some really high points with the Super Bowl. And then, of course, like most coaches, towards the end, he wasn't that good, and that's why he got let go. But you hearing that as well?
Yeah, I'm reading that and hearing that, like you said, and I mean that's a good thing. Maybe the guy knows what he is. I mean, you always hear that, guys are just trying to make their way up, and maybe that's a lot of people's goal ultimately is become head coach. Maybe this guy just wants to be an offense coordinator, and I mean, you heard my take on what happened out in Seattle. What happened. Oh, it wasn't that great. I think a big part of it was that offensive line was terrible, so it really couldn't do what he wanted to do. So, if he's maybe he's not out there to set the world on fire and have like all these the greatest show on turf. And if Matt Pat wants to be the guy to run ball control offense, but still be able to where teams are like gearing up to stop the run, where they can kind of chuck the ball around the field because they got Stafford out there to do that. I believe Bevel's the guy to do that. The one thing that did kind of disturb me, though, was reading that Lions had also talked to Charlie Weiss about the offensive coordinator position. I don't know if you saw that as well, but I know Charlie Weiss was big in New England, early on out there. He had a good offense, and then he went to Notre Dame, really scuffled there after a couple of years, ended up at Kansas and looked really, really bad there. So that was one of those guys that when I read that, I was kind of relieved that they didn't go with him. I don't know what the talks were, if Charlie Weiss wasn't interested or something like that, but I don't know if it was one of those things since Charlie Weiss kind of worked with Belichick, kind of knew what he liked to do. They just gave him a call, or if that was distinct interest. I wasn't quite sure on that, but there was a bit of relief when it turned out that nothing became of that.
Yeah, I guess I'm with you, but I also think that it was kind of neat to see the Lions outside the box and go grab somebody that was kind of off people's radar, but had a track record of success. Because, I mean, Charlie Weiss was always good as an offensive coordinator. It's just when he went as a head coach in Notre Dame, he's like a fish out of water, and then he kind of disappeared from the NFL. He's been gone for a while, but when people have been gone for a while, I'm always either like they're gone for a while for a reason, or maybe they've been gone for a while and they've been watching from a different perspective and are geared up to really do something new and kind of reinvent themselves, or kind of people forgot about them, so they're not easily scouted, all that type of stuff. So, I wouldn't have been as excited about Charlie Weiss as I'm interested and excited about Bevel, but both would have been intriguing because they weren't the names or people that we were thinking about, but you can't say that they haven't been good, especially in this type of system. So, we'll see how it all shakes out. I just think too, like I said, the Kool-Aid is flowing because we're in the off season, but it's all going to come down to what they do on Sundays. Is he going to have a good run game with carry on? Is he going to be able to play action, throw the ball down the field and get points on the board? Or are we going to struggle and be conservative? I think that's all what it comes down to it. But Sean Ryan, quarterback coach, I mean, gosh, please get Matt Stafford back on track. Whatever you got to do, get on top of him, or from a pushing him perspective, or like you say, if he needs to be positive and told how great he is, whatever you got to do to get this guy playing like 2011, 2012ish again, please do it fast. So last item we have, Grifka, rumor and innuendo about the Lions draft plans after the Senior Bowl from reporters. You hear any of the stuff from Jeff Risdon or some of these guys that were down there after Senior Bowl, some of the stuff they said about what the Lions might do in the draft or what they think about different positions? You hear any of this?
No, not really. Actually, I've been just reading like a whole lot of mock drafts that the NFL guys have been having so far, and like you said, one of them has come through with Montez Sweat. Another guy's come through with the tight end T.J. Hawkinson from Iowa. I would be very disappointed with that one. But not a whole lot from the guys that were down there. I will admit I haven't seen a whole lot of that.
All right, well, I'll give you a little bit of what I remember. But first of all, you threw out a couple mocks, so I already gave my quick take on Sweat. Let me calm your fears with T.J. Hawkinson, because he's not going, up in the 8 range, but he's a heck of a football player. This guy is like, if we could get him in the second round or like trade down a couple times and get to the lower end of the first, you got to consider this guy. I mean, he's a beast in the blocking game. He can catch, shifty and good run after the catch. Just kind of like, if you look at him, or he's a football player. He's like a little, I don't want to say a little Gronk, but when I watched a little bit of him, I was like, man, this guy is the exact type of tight end the Lions want, which is not just a fancy pass catcher and not a height, weight, speed guy. This guy's just a meat and potatoes Iowa football player that would be great. So he's totally on my radar. It's just, when can you get him? Hopefully later. And then just like you said, how much are they going to value the tight end moving forward? But don't sell Hawkinson short. But yeah, Daniel Jeremiah, one of my favorites, put him at 8. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I'll get more into it. Draft, Senior Bowl, free agency, all that stuff coming up soon. But here's what I heard on after Grifka. I heard from Risden. He said he'd be shocked if the Lions take a corner at the top of the draft or at 8. He said he'd be absolutely shocked. So that was surprising to hear. He also put out there that he talked to some sources and they feel like the Lions are much more comfortable and much more in favor with their offensive line than the fans are. We're all like worrying about Rick Wagner and what TJ Lang's going to do and this, that, and the other. He seemed to think, from who we talked to, that there's a plan for that offensive line. They feel really good about Crosby. So depending on what happens to TJ or in free agency, it feels like they have a plan to get Crosby a lot of looks. So that was interesting to hear. And I lean more that way too. I mean, I wasn't happy with our blocking, but I feel like they put so many resources into it. You have to make it work with or without TJ Lang. But so that came out, and then that was, some of those sentiments were seconded by like a national writer who then threw a little more gas on the fire and said that he feels it's a pretty good chance the Lions will go offense in round 1. Like, to me, that meant a trade back or 2 that they would do it, but there's not really anybody I'm seeing at 8 that makes a ton of sense offensively. But if you trade back a couple times, yeah, I've already said on the show that I would not be against an offensive skill player, a take the top off the defense type of receiver, even a tight end lower in round 1, or, I don't think there's any running backs there, but there are a couple top flight receivers that could go in that mid to late first round that could help this team. So that's what I'm hearing, man. And that's the rumor innuendo coming out of the Senior Bowl. What do you think about that?
Like I said, I guess it depends on what happens with free agency, what they're looking to sign, and maybe they're not happy with, some of those guys, at 8, thinking either they need somebody a little bigger, like a Bosa or something like that, but they're not going to trade up to get him. But like you said, maybe Sweat doesn't, fit at the number 8 spot for him, down a little farther. And yeah, Hawkinson, like you said, I guess it depends on where they fall. If they do trade back a couple times, get him somewhere in, the mid to late 20s or something like that, yeah, I'd be okay with that. But I can't see the guy, tight end at 8. I don't like that. So yeah, if you're putting my mind at ease, I can live with that. But I wouldn't be looking at a running back in the first round. But if they're happy with the offensive line, I guess you can mark that off the list. Was it the wide receiver out of Arizona State? I'm seeing that a lot as well. Was it N'Keal Harris, I believe his name is?
N'Keal Harry, yeah.
Yeah, N'Keal Harry, yeah. That guy, I mean, because I saw him play against Michigan State, and he looked pretty good, actually really good, and he's quick, and he's a guy who can, he seemed to get open a lot. So I could see him probably somewhere in like the middle of the first round, if that's the way the Lions would go. Once again, I know we've talked about this before. I think there's bigger needs on this team than wide receiver. But if they're looking for an offensive skill position to give Matt Stafford another weapon, yeah, I could live with it. But like I said, I think there's bigger needs on this team than wide receiver. And we know the tight end position wasn't that great. But if they're looking mid to late 20, yeah, I could live with the tight end at that point.
Oh, man, Grifka, you're getting all my draft juices going. So before we dive into the Patriots, just want to say a couple quick things. To me, N'Keal Harry, he's kind of a late 1-2 type guy. I mean, he could go in the first round, but I wouldn't take him there. Plus, I don't think he fits the Lions. I mean, unless we were to trade Marvin Jones. If you trade Marvin Jones, then yeah, you'd be looking for that number one big freak type receiver, which like him, DK Metcalf for right now is probably going to be my number one receiver on the board. And then, he's projected to go in the first round, but I mean, a perfect guy for the Lions for me is, if you're going to go late first round, is if they could get their hands on Hollywood Brown, this guy that has absolute speed, scores big touchdowns, almost like our Brandon Cooks type of player. Or, you wait to that second, third round and get one of these shifty underneath guys that I kind of already talked about, Isabella and some of these other guys. But, I'm with you. I don't know that they need this big freak receiver unless they, move Marvin, but a good blocking, passing tight end, or a, over the top type receiver, or a, there's not a shifty underneath guy to replace Golden Tate early. You'd have to wait, I think, to get one of those guys. Even Deebo Samuel, I don't know if you watched him in the Senior Bowl, Grifka. This guy is electric. He was supposed to go in like the third round, and now he's moving his way up the board, but he'd be, again, a second round type guy I'd consider. But well, the later the better. You can wait. So anyway, you're getting me on draft stuff. I could talk.
Yeah, let's get off draft stuff before we do a whole show on
Patriots. So, Grifka, the Lions on national TV, Sunday Night Football, welcoming in the Patriots, teacher versus student. Lions are 0-2. Pats are 1-1. Everybody coming into this game is like, oh man, this is going to be a beat down. Patriots, Lions are just lost right now. And before we get into the details, I mean, the overarching, I hate to, kill the lead, but the Lions played one of their better football games I can remember in the past decade from top to bottom, and just looked really good in this game. So before I throw it to you, I mean, let's just work our way through this game like I did sort of on our solo shows last week. I've got some notes here, but I've also just got a couple bulleted points. So we'll kind of work our way through. I'll pitch it to you for some feedback. So the first little note I had was, man, the Pats was 3 and out to start. I think anytime the Lions can defer the football and get a 3 and out, that really is big, especially when you're playing a guy like Tom Brady. That was a good sign. Who knew it goes so well, but that was just something good I picked up right off the bat. 3 and out, get the football right back. So this next one I want you to comment on. So the Lions get the football. They start kind of moving the ball down the field or whatever. And they, I don't know if this was the next drive or maybe a couple drives later, but anyway, 3rd and 5, they throw a short ball to GT. He catches the ball. He kind of leans forward. He's right on the yellow line, which is a first down. Like, we're in their territory. I want to say this was at like the 15, 20-yard line, something like that. Like, we were heading in for a score. Either they didn't measure at all, or they deemed us short and we just didn't even think about it. We run our field goal team out there. Like, it was like 4th and inches. Did you pick up on this and say, hey, that's a chance early in the game that we could have went for it? And instead, it's 4th and it couldn't have been more than a couple inches. We just run our field goal team off on the field. I was disappointed by that.
Yeah, I was disappointed as well.
Agree
that
with
was
me?
like one of those plays where you're wondering, it's like, it's a 3rd and 5. You're right. I actually jotted down that same note, and they threw short of the sticks. I mean, I don't know why Golden Tate, it was one of those things, either that's what they were called for, is one of those things where he thought he'd be able to get the first down, and the defender made a nice tackle, dropping him short. But I couldn't understand why he, broke the route off, that short.
But no, it wasn't the
short.
route.
Maybe he thought he was there.
They put it on him, and he got forward to the sticks. I didn't have any problem with the throw, the catch, or how he dove upfield. I have a problem with, it was so close. Did the refs not even measure? And then, in a game like that, why are all these other teams are going for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 3 yard, and we can't get a couple inches? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was. I remember we talked about this really early, during the preseason thing, that we had kind of both agreed that, Matt Patricia, you're the GM's boy. It's your first year as a coach. Take some chances once in a while. And I kind of thought the same thing. It's short. Matt Stafford can't fall forward for a couple inches and get the first down, or you signed LeGarrette Blount to be the big, heavy back to get that short yardage. And I still feel that New England doesn't have that huge run stuffer in there like they had in past years, like Vince Wilfork and stuff like that. But I thought they could have got it, but he kind of played it conservative and just, took the 3 points and settled for the 3 points. And yeah, in hindsight now we see how well the defense played and the game turned out. But, New England seems to be like one of those teams you can't match, their touchdowns with just field goals. So I was disappointed in that as well.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. So the next little thing I had written down, which, sounds almost like a Grifkaism, I just wrote here, the Lions always get the worst refs. I mean, flags all over the field. We always get the annoying guys that, they can't wait to get on camera. This Cleek Blakeman, I mean, he's just, super annoying with how precise he's trying to be with the calls and calling holding or these illegal contacts on every play. That just frustrated me right off the get-go. I have here some sweet runs by number 33. I just think this was kind of the first sighting that we had of Kerryon, actually, showing glimpses. He had some runs start the game, so I thought that was great to see. So speak on that as well as this great throw, catch, and stretch, as I call it, by Kenny G for the first touchdown of the game. Kerryon Johnson, and then a great effort by Kenny Golladay to get in the end zone.
Yeah, for how on Kerryon, for how quick he looks on that field, he just just compared to LeGarrette Blount looks slow and plodding compared to what Kerryon. I jotted down one where they ran a swing pass to Johnson out in the backfield, and he was by the linebacker quickly. The guy was supposed to be covering him, and he kind of deked the defensive back, and went upfield. Had a nice gain, and on that, and he was just. And I just jotted down, he's just hard to defend. I mean, that's very hard to defend if he can consistently do that, considering the Lions have often used Theo Riddick for that for years, and he kind of has the same skill set. But, when Theo Riddick's in there, that's kind of what you're looking for him to do that. But if they're able to do that with Kerryon Johnson, on the field, that's very hard to defend for somebody who hits the hole quickly, and especially coming out of the backfield. So he could do a lot of damage for the Lions, in the next few years. So, and then, Golladay stretching for that touchdown, that's just great body control out of him. I mean, I know you've been on this guy since they drafted him, and I know you tease me and say hey, wait until he does, I always wait a couple years, but I mean, this guy's ahead of my curve. Before, like you said, you always tease me 3 years. You're right. It is about that before I'm really going to start giving a guy credit. I want to make sure he's established, he does stuff, but this guy's ahead of my curve. I mean, seeing him do stuff like that, where, the San Francisco game on that touchdown right there, where he's able to contort his body a certain way to be able to do that and score that touchdown, he just impresses me, more and more, so I will give Matt props to you on that.
Yeah, man, that was one of those plays where it was a great ball by Stafford, put it on him. Dangerous, but a great effort by Kenny to barely stretch it out before the ball came loose, and a big touchdown to get on the board early. I put here, man, I just thought Stafford was standing tall and throwing some rockets. I mean, it felt like protection was good. His mechanics, his feet were there. He was holding the ball with two hands, and then when he saw something open, he was letting it rip in this game, which is, what we got to see for 16 plus coming up in 2019. So 3rd and 3, a great little run by KJ for the first down. I think that was more like a run where he made a couple quick cuts and got up the field. But I know the one you're talking about too on the pass where he caught it out and then got shifty a little bit and got upfield. Talk about this one, Grifka. 45 seconds left in the second quarter. It's 3rd and 1. The Patriots are driving, and everybody that's sitting at home, especially you, are going, here they come. They're going to score right before the half, and then we're done for. They try to run it off tackle right, and basically the whole Lions defense is there to meet them. Absolutely huge stuff. Makes it 4th and probably 4 or 5 yards. They end up kicking a field goal here late in the first half. What do you have to say about that
one? I saw this through the whole game, and we saw the run defense step up like this later in the year when they finally got snacks. But as I was watching this game, I thought to myself, this had to be, one of the most determined games I've seen the Lions play in years. Like you said, it'd been a long time, played this well. And I know me and you talked, you said, they practice every week, they prepare, but this seemed to be like one of the most determined games I've ever seen the Detroit Lions play. And it was plays like that, where you're right. It was third and shorts, and it seems like, we watched the game, the Kansas City playoff game where it was like the third and short where, Sony Michel busted off that run and, off the end and went in for the touchdown late in the game, and Tony Romo called it. But it seemed like that's what they tried. It's like, okay, you got it clogged up the middle. We're going to run off to, run outside a little bit to get it. And it's almost like Matt Patricia kind of knew that, and the defense was there, and it was a great play. And they were kind of doing that all night on those short runs. It'd be like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and New England's going to, okay, we're just going to muscle you. We got this. And the Lions defense really stepped up and stopped them. It just, like I said, I thought it was like one of the most determined games offense-wise and defense-wise that they played in such a long time. And like you had mentioned, Stafford, looked confident, stepping up, making the throws. And, he did seem to have that swagger. And I think that was kind of one thing that kind of, not to point out bad, but that interception he had in the first drive of the second half where it's like he thought he could fit it in that window. And, he was making all the throws, and he just, oh
boy.
Like Chris Collinsworth said, if he puts a little air underneath it,
Grifko,
it's probably not the interception. He probably just thought he could muscle it in there because he was having such a great game. It was the sharpest game, obviously, with the first 3 games. And he looked really, really good. But he seemed to have that swagger in the game, against the Patriots.
All right, well, hang in there with this, Grifka. You're getting ahead of us and the Kool-Aid drinkers. We're only at halftime here. It's 13-3 Lions.
Oh, sorry.
After this field goal, the Lions, I put here, they dominated and played solid in all areas, which you just hit on. And then, as you hit on, which I'll comment on, my next bullet I have written here was coming out of the half. Lions get the football. I didn't notice it till the replay, but Matt Stafford has Wilson open up over the top, but instead he tries to sort of throw his 3/4 seam ball, which he likes to do, up the middle and gets it picked off. This is a big play. This is just kind of like where people talk about his touch and his decision making. Like, he has to learn better of when to make what throws. I mean, a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees, all these top quarterbacks, the Aaron Rodgers, they know good enough that all you got to do is put air under this football and get it up over and give your guy a chance, and it's either a touchdown or an incompletion. But you can't do what he did right here. So you've already hit on that. So the next thing I have is just, a perfect throw by TB12 for the touchdown. This is going to make it this is with 10 minutes left in the third quarter. This is going to bring the game to 13-10. Lions still in the lead, but again, Grifka's sitting in his squeaky rocking chair with his broken coffee table, is sitting there shaking his head going, here we go, 13-10. We played great. Everything's still rocking and rolling, but Tom Brady, with a nice little drive coming down the field, ends up putting a great ball on James White, I believe. Diggs was in great coverage, but it didn't matter. This was a great touchdown. So next item I have for you, Grifka, good third down conversions on the next Lions drive. I thought they moved the football down the field. They probably had 2 or 3 first downs, third and shorts that they converted on, which was awesome. And the next thing I know, a big TD throw to Marvin Jones. I have here just a great throw by Matt Stafford. Not that it was the hardest throw because Marvin got open and they had the whole right side of the end zone, but where Stafford put it, the loft / heat that he put on the football was perfect, and this was just a great touchdown throw. Talk about that a little bit.
Like you said, as we go back and watch these games, you watch them kind of with a different eye. You learn a few more things throughout the year, after the year, kind of what, Matt Patricia is trying to mold this team into. I think as I was watching that drive, and what he's saying, how he wants to kind of be like the ball control, eat up a lot of clock. That drive kind of, I think, pretty much, typifies what he's looking to do for this offense. Control the clock. They had a lot of good runs on that play. That offensive line was just opening up some massive holes. A couple nice third down conversions, like you mentioned. And then as the defense is like starting to creep up, to like stop the run since they're being successful with the run, that's where they pop it over the top. And Marvin Jones was, open on a great throw. And I think, as I look at it now, I was watching him like, this is what he wants this offense to be. So if the Lions can do that, great. And that's just if that's what it's going to do, because it keeps that offense, that high-powered offense, Patriots game off the field, and it just makes it a bigger hill for them guys to come back. Like you said, they had just drove the ball down the field, probably had a lot of confidence. If it's one of those things like, oh, get us the ball back, we'll go do it again, and the Lions were able to chew up a lot of clock and go down and score. So that's a really nice thing to see.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So the Lions get a touchdown here. It makes it 23-10. I have here about 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. An absolutely awesome "Let's Go Lions" chant by the fans. All I could think of was, man, if this team can get it together and turn Ford Field into an absolute snake pit, the people absolutely love this football being played by this team right now. It's getting rowdy. It was great to hear. I was thinking, man, playoff game, division title type game in Ford Field could be crazy. The next thing I have is an interception. Interception by your boy Big Play Slay. 7 minutes, 30 seconds, fourth quarter. Tom Brady probably getting a little bit frustrated, not being patient, throws a deep football. Slay had it played perfectly. Ball's a little underthrown. He just goes up. I put easy pick, and then they showed the slow motion replay, and he's got the butter stick hands where he almost drops this ball, but he makes the play and gets upfield. So your boy, number 23, I thought that was a great play to pick it off, get the football back for the Lions. Living up to the nickname on that one.
Yeah, that's like you said, I think it was one of those things where Brady knew time was getting, late, and they had to move the ball down the field, and he just tried to open it up, and Slay made a play. And I liked Darius Slay, so I was happy to see that. And I saw that same thing on the replay. I'm like, yeah, he almost dropped that, but he was able to hold on for the pick, and the Lions were able to chew up some more clock after that. And it's just people still pick on Slay, but I have friends who don't really like him, say he gets burned way too much, but I still say he's high risk, high reward. So it's stuff like that, and he was able to come up with a pick and really make it more and more difficult for New England to come back in that game.
Oh, man, I thought Slay was great throughout this game. Early in the season, man, he was playing some high-end football. They were trying to throw at him, and he had lots of great plays early. And then, as we know now, looking back on the season, later in the year, he had a couple things here or there, but, he's still one of the top overall football players that we have, not only from, like, an attitude perspective. He seems to be supporting Matt Pat, but just – he plays solid, and if he can get his hands on the football more, that's what we need. But he's down at the Pro Bowl, so you got to love that. Couple more things, Grifka, and we'll finish up this rewind and get out of here. I have here 4 minutes and 43 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 101 yards for Kerryon Johnson. The place goes crazy. I just remember that moment just thinking, thank goodness. And this guy isn't got some juice, like you said. When he touches the football, it looks different. He's shifty. He's got speed. He can catch. This was the first game we're seeing those glimpses, and, man, it was good. So I got his stat line here, 16 carries for 101, and his long was only 15. So he was kind of just chunking his way through 10 yards here, 8 yards here, 12 yards here type of thing. And you got to love it. So that was a moment, wasn't it, for us Lions fans, of just finally a 100-yard rusher, and, man, maybe we got something in this guy.
Yeah, finally breaking that string, like you said. It seemed like every week, the announcer would mention it. And as of right now, I can't, praise Kerryon enough. He seems quick burst. He hits the hole hard. It seems like he's got good vision. It never seems like as of right now, it doesn't seem like that guy's just like, yeah, how'd you miss that hole? If you cut it back the other way, he seems to be doing that. And he's not that. You see a lot of rookie running backs. They always seem to want to bounce it to the outside instantaneously because they were able to do that in college and just beat everybody with their speed. But he doesn't seem to be like that guy. He'll kick it to the outside when when he needs to, but he's not instantaneously looking to bust it off the tackle or, way out, off, outside the tight end. He seems like, okay, wait for the hole to punch open and then hit it, or it's like if it's there, and he hits it quickly, so much quicker than what Blunt did this year. So, and he only bumps it to the outside when he needs to. So, right now it seems like the future is really, really bright for this guy.
Yep, I think you said it well there. I mean, what was fun too of going back in this game was like I'm seeing early in the season against a really good opponent when we weren't really playing that good heading in. Seeing a healthy Kenny, a healthy carry on, a decently, set offensive line, and Matt Stafford playing a lot better football than he was towards the end of 2018 was fun to watch. It was kind of like, okay, we do have some playmakers like that Bob Quinn is looking for, and if he can add another couple, yeah, this could be a fun team to watch if they're slamming the football in the run game and then throwing, the way he was in this game, pretty consistent. I got here a 101.9 rating QBR for Matt Stafford, 262, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you got to love that. It's crazy. Tom Brady, 65.1. He threw for 133 and 1 TD and a pick in this game. That's just craziness. So a couple more quick things. Lots of offensive holding by the Lions I have here. Again, stupid refs, but also our offensive line just kind of, bringing back plays and just hurting us with some of these holding calls. 26-10, 2 minutes left. Just loving what I'm seeing here from our team. And then I have here, speak to this, man. 25 seconds left in the game. It's 26-10. And your boy, Chris Collinsworth, is sitting there talking about, oh, man, if anybody could do it, the Patriots could do it. I mean, if they get a score and a 2-point, they can get the onside kick, and you just never know. Really? 25 seconds left. They're going to get a score, and they're at midfield, by the way. Like, that was just absolute garbage. I mean, yeah, I can see trying to keep your audience, but come on, this football game's over, you dumb idiot.
Yeah, you could even tell, like, even the Patriots knew it kind of at that point. They were, there was like, oh, it's a short gain. We're slow up to the line, and guys were really hustling back. They were just more interested in getting in the locker room, at that point, shake a few hands, say good game, how's the wife and kids, and then, make their way to the locker room. But yeah, it was like one of those things where if anybody can do it, yeah, you might be able to do that in like Madden 92, but you're not going to do it now. Come on.
Right. Anybody that can count knows that, hey, you're down 16 and there's 20 seconds left. Yeah, I don't think they're going to come back. They're Collinsworth. And we played so well throughout the game. Like, maybe you could have said that early in the second half. Like, the Patriots and the Lions history. Yeah, maybe you can play into that. But don't try to play into that stuff with less than 30 seconds left. Midfield down 16. That was just stupid by him, I thought. I mean, hey, Collinsworth, go check Pro Football Focus and see how many teams have won down 16 with 25 seconds there, you stat nerd. All right, so last thing I have here, a real brief hug from Double B and Matt Pat. I felt like Double B, just does that. Even though Matt Pat wanted to sort of respect more and have more of a moment there at midfield, Billy Belichick was just like, quick handshake, just stormed off to the locker room like, in the words of Griff, because someone had just punched him in the face and took his candy. So I thought that was interesting. And I just have here in big bold letters, man, solid play by our Lions and a great win for them.
Yeah, I think Belichick's one of those guys, no matter what, like even win or loss after the field, like that. If a former coach, since I think he liked Matt Patricia, we know how he felt about Eric Mangini. So I think he's just that type of guy. He's not going to show him the love on the field, like hug it out, hey, go have a great season. He's that type of guy that's just going to give a quick handshake, pat on the back, and just walk off the field, win or lose, and then maybe league meetings or something like that, or afterwards, later in the week, chat it up with him on the phone. He seems like that type of coach. So no matter what, win or lose, he's going to have like that Steely Cole thing. Like, look how focused he is on this game. He's going to get this team back. I think part of that's maybe a little bit for show. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, obviously, but from what you're reading, he likes Matt Patricia. He thinks he's a good coach. So I think maybe later on he chatted up with him a little more, told him good game. But I think that was more like for the cameras to show like, he's like that steely cold guy that everybody thinks he is. I think some of that's kind of a facade that he kind of keeps up. So.
Yeah, I think there was a report that he went in the locker room and congratulated him. And I know this was a fun one, not only it's crazy to have Matt Pat's first win against the Patriots in our house. After everybody was so down on him. I remember just the sky was falling, sports radio was going nuts, and then they play a phenomenal game like this. So I think we've hit on it all, Grifka. I guess we talked it through. I just got two quick ones for you. So do you think that we beat the Patriots in this game just because Matt Pat had been there so long and absolutely knew, how to just beat this team? Or do you think everything kind of came together for offense, defense, or was this more he schemed it out? And because of his history, I mean, if he was playing another team in this ball game, it might have went differently. But because it was the Pats, he really had his finger on him, which going into the game, everybody thought it'd be the other way. Like, Bill Belichick, just all he does is win. And, he always beats the Lions. But it actually was the other way. Like, Matt Pat knew the Patriots so well that he just guarded it up and dealt them a hand they couldn't deal with. So you think that as well?
I think that was a big point of the game, that he knew what kind of like their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, what they, every team still has tendencies, and what to run on offense, what to do on defense. So he was there. I think he was a big part of the scheme offense-wise, like this is what the defense can do. This is what these guys can do, what they can't do. Even though you can study hours and hours of tape, good coaches know, like, okay, this is this guy's weakness. We're going to do this so it doesn't really show up, and this is how that'll happen. And he knew, like, this guy doesn't do this well, and he was able to help scheme that. I think that was really, really big part of it, which allowed him to do that. And I think, we'll get to this game later and we can talk about it then, but it kind of worked the same way with Miami. Not so much the Jets or Buffalo, but I think kind of the same way with Miami as well. But I think a big part was he was there for so long. He just knew what that team could and couldn't do, and kind of knew what to do to stop them and take advantage of their weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think, he really did have his hand on the pulse of, hey, guard up Gronk, deal with everything else and try to fluster Tom Brady a little bit, which he was able to do. Not so much with a bunch of sacks, but just kind of got him off his spot and didn't let him get comfortable. So I think that was definitely a Matt Pat knowing the insides and knowing how to get after this team. Last little thing I have for you is, like, me and you went back and forth about the GT trade and what he meant to the team and his value and all that good stuff. But, I have a note here. I felt like Golden Tate on tape, when you go back and watch these games, I mean, he was making a big difference early on in the season. Stafford really seemed to lean on him. That's where a lot of his big plays were happening, chain movers. You think Golden Tate, even in this game, had a big catch, kind of led us in receiving again for the most part. So, looking back at a game like this, third game of the year, where are you at with hindsight, being able to see everything as far as what his value was to the team, where he was at in his career, and, now with him not being here anymore, are they going to be able to sort of come back from that? Do you need to wait and see the draft pick? Like, where are you at? Because he did jump off the screen in these first few games of making plays.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was him and Matt Stafford just were really comfortable together. And he, knew what to do to get open for Stafford. Stafford was kind of looking for him. He was this security blanket. He knew what to do. And like you said, in hindsight, where they ended up, obviously I think not having them there cost them some games, or at least Stafford's confidence, later in the year. But I have this one friend who was always like, they weren't going to do anything with him anyways. He was always kind of like, like you do, you kind of point out their stats, and he was like, he does the same thing there. They weren't winning with him. The trade's fine. We'll see what they get, in the third rounder. So, yeah, maybe you're right. The team, ultimately wasn't good enough. But it's still one of those things where if, maybe he's around later, Stafford doesn't have as many issues throwing, especially with all the injuries they had later in the year and the guys they had on there. But, early on, definitely, he just, I think him and Stafford had this connection. They just kind of knew each other, and they knew where they'd be, and, knew what to do. And, and just later on in the year when he was gone, it obviously wasn't there with the replacements.
Yeah. I guess where I sit on it is like, so I go back and look at it now, and, the first part of me is kind of like, oh man, he really was not only spark plug underneath, but his big playability here in the first few weeks of the year was showing up. And, we're going to talk about the Cowboys game kind of later this week. And he jumps off the page in that game and has an absolutely huge game. So, part of me at first like, oh man, maybe he would have made a difference in you. Maybe it'd been good. But then I put my like GM/business side of the game on and say, no, like no matter if he gets another 1,000-yard season and has his probably averages, 3 to 6 touchdowns a year, depending on what year it is, maybe has a big year here or there, but nothing crazy in regards to touchdowns. So I just still support the move, even though he's jumping off the page early here in the season. When I look back, it's kind of like, you can find other receivers that can catch balls underneath and that can have some of that shiftiness, and just for the price tag, it was just going to get out of hand. I mean, wait till we pick another receiver that's good and that makes $500,000 rather than $15 million or whatever Golden Tate's going to get on this crazy open market. So my brain was saying, wow, look at this guy, or my eyes were saying, look at this guy, he's making great plays. He was a great receiver for our quarterback. And then everything else tells me, hey, I think this will work out better for the team in the long run. So I was just curious what you thought looking back. So that's all I got, man. I thought this was a great rewind, a great game to look back on. Lions beating up on the Patriots at home, giving their team some life. And we know that the next few games, they go on kind of a run and get themselves back to a good standing kind of in that first quarter and a half of the season. So it was a fun one to watch, man.
Yeah, it was very refreshing to watch this after watching some of the other games. And this one, it was one of the more enjoyable games to go through and rewind and watch.
That's what I'm saying, man. Kool-Aid drinkers, go out there and find a way to watch this, pull it up on YouTube, whatever you got to do. You watch games like this and some other games we'll talk about. Get your juices flowing again. This team's got some talent. They've schemed up a better defense as we move on in the year. It's something to be excited about. So, Grifka, let's go ahead and get out of here. No questions, nothing else this week. I do want everybody to be on the lookout. I screwed up last weekend. I didn't give you that Senior Bowl draft type podcast. I'm definitely going to come through with that here soon. I'm hoping to do it this next weekend coming up, so be on the lookout for that. Promise I'll get that out. And also, anybody that wants to send me questions about the draft or about guys they saw in the Senior Bowl, you can send those on Twitter at Detroit_Kool-Aid, or you can email us at detkoolaid@gmail.com. So please reach out to us. We love answering the questions from the Kool-Aid drinkers, and I love talking draft, as we saw early in this episode. So this is about that time, Grifka, where I say, you got anything else for the people?
No, not today.
All right, perfect. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. We love all the support and stuff we're getting for the Detroit Kool-Aid cast. It means the world to me and Grifka. So please keep that up, share this with a friend, and come and check us later this week. We'll be doing some Kool-Aid rewind against the Cowboys. So look forward to that. So for me and for Grifka, we're going to get up out of here. Everybody take care. Detroit Kool-Aid cast, we're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.